major developments here in New York City when it comes to some big stories. Today we are talking about the casinos that are one of the most talked about and high things on everyone's minds, considering how big of a project, say, Hudson Yards was, or maybe bringing the Jets to the city. And now here we're talking about casinos. There were 3 bids in New York City. We're going to be talking about that. Compass made a massive move, probably the biggest move in residential real estate history, combining all of the just umbrella companies that are available. And we're going to be talking about all of that and more this week. Today on this show, we're going to be talking about that. This week, we're going to be talking about a lot of shakeups here in New York City. There's a lot of consolidation going on, so let's get right into it. The first thing we're going to be talking about is the casino plans. There were 3 that were in the West Side, in Midtown, and now the East Side that were rejected by the City Council or the City Planning Committee, which, to be honest, got a little contentious last week when the second bid was actually said 4-2 rejected. And there was a lot of words said outside of that meeting, to say the least. So the first one that was taken away was on the West Side Highway near Hudson Yards. That was going to be a mega complex. That was Larry Silverstein's ambitious project. That was a casino, hotel, residential. There was a whole tower that was going to go, affordable planning. There was big fears about traffic. The neighborhood has developed incredibly since that whole project is in maybe its 3rd phase upcoming. It's still in, like, what are they going to do? Just south of the Javits Center, you essentially have a tremendous community. It's a whole neighborhood. It's kind of like West Chelsea that was developed over there in the last 10 years. And it's nice. It's really nice. Very expensive shops. Obviously, everything is updated, brand new. Residential could be doing better, to say the least. Commercial could be doing a little bit better, especially with the office space. There's a lot of competition in the office space when you come to, say, even Midtown with One Vanderbilt right next to Grand Central Station. Then you obviously have the World Financial System downtown, which has an exorbitant amount of office space. There's a lot of competition. The good thing is with that, there are a lot of jobs that are requiring people to remain at work at least until Thursday, or at least be in the office till Thursday. Then obviously a lot of them have it optional on Fridays. I noticed that in the city on Fridays, it's a lot more casual walking around. So the first one that was rejected was Silverstein's mega complex. To be honest, the designs and everything else, it didn't really look that appetizing. Then in Midtown, Mohegan Tribes, along with a couple of other investors, tried a $11 billion vision, which was casino, affordable housing, green space, and entertainment. This was actually right in the heart of the Midtown Times Square area. To be honest, the designs visually, I guess, looked appealing. I went back and forth with my buddy. He was not happy that it was rejected. He's in residential as well. He was saying it could have really brought up the area, but Times Square really isn't that shoddy of an area. It's not like you're really throwing in billions of dollars to an area that already has billions of dollars. It's extremely high traffic when it comes to tourism and people visiting, and just in general, I forgot the hotel that's right there. I don't know if it's the Hilton, but that thing is a monstrosity, and they are always booked. I don't know how many rooms they have. They have thousands of rooms in there, and dozens of conference rooms. And I was just in there a couple of weeks ago, and I looked around. I went to the front desk. I just was curious about the room rates. They were sold out for the night. This is a place that has thousands and thousands of rooms right in the middle of Times Square. I understand it's right in Midtown, everyone wants to book it and everything else. But that was really pushing against the narrative that New York City would never come back. That's number one. Number two is, when you have record-breaking, I think the record-breaking is 65 million visitors in a year, and we came close, I think, 2 to 3 years ago, where it was about 61, 62 million. We have to be coming right up against that 65 million, because I have not seen as many people in New York City as I have this year. It's just, you got to walk in the middle of the street, because that's the only way that you can get up and down the street. So number one was Silverstein. That got rejected. Number two was Midtown. That was Mohegan son. That was, I think actually that was with Rock Nation. I don't know. But the latest one, which was on the east side of Manhattan, that was actually very interesting. Now that I'm looking at I'm sorry, Caesars was actually Midtown. That was with Rock Nation. That was the one that just got recently rejected. It was actually, I think, SL Green's CEO that was calling them out in person. That was very interesting. So that was actually the second one that just got, this is with all in a week. So Silverstein got rejected, then Midtown got rejected. That was SL Green. He confronted the committee as they were exiting the offices after a 4-2 rejection. That was with Rock Nation. That's Jay-Z's company. And then that was Caesars Entertainment. So that was the one I didn't really like. I mixed up the Midtown and the East Side. And then the one that just got rejected was Mohegan Tribes. That was $11 billion. That was on the East Side. That was right near the UN. They stated that it was rejected because of congestion, safety, and character. It's very interesting ways to actually formulate it, that it was character. Meanwhile, you know, I don't know how much character's over there in the UN, but, you know, it would have been nice, to be honest. If you wanted to slot anything of a casino type building, it would have been on the East Side. The West Side, it would have probably been a little out of place, but it still would have been good. Midtown, you know, there wasn't enough room, to be honest. You know, I understand where they were going with the illustrations, but that was, to be honest, an easy rejection. The East Side could actually use it. And the transportation getting there would have been the challenge. The easiest way would have been the West Side, but they all got rejected. So Manhattan is not in the running anymore. There are a couple of other runnings that are going on right now. Brooklyn, Queens are still in the running. I think there's also one in the Bronx, which is very interesting. So it's going to be very curious what happens. I think actually Mayor Adams put his hat behind either Midtown or the one on the East Side. So he's on board with a casino. To be honest, my only opinion of Manhattan is it should not be here. If anything, go out to, say, where the Islanders are playing. That whole area has just flipped upside down. It's just stunning. The Belmont area, the Belmont horse race is going through a multi-year renovation. I think they're up to 3 or 4 years. They've been closed for the Belmont Stakes, so they've been up at upstate and racing up there, which, you know, Saratoga Springs, Saratoga, it's nice. It's not like the Belmont Stakes where you got people coming in from all over the place to just have a great day. Leave your comments below, because my opinion is there should not be a Manhattan casino. Obviously, I would love to hear what you have to say about that. Subscribe to the channel if you like to hear about news, breaking news, opinions, things behind the scenes, what's going on. There's a lot of development going on here in Manhattan after a couple of slow years, to say the least. Moving on to the next story, we have a crazy merger going on right now. Compass is now acquiring Anywhere Real Estate for $1.6 billion. It's an all-cash deal. Anywhere Real Estate, which, if you don't know, is under the umbrella company. Under that umbrella, Anywhere Real Estate is Century 21, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's. Okay, you are literally looking at, and Corcoran. So you're literally looking at, I think, 20-something% of the market right there, once you include, and to be honest, Corcoran is a top contender, one or two every single year on volume in New York City. Compass is up there, top 5. It's always between Elliman and Corcoran. But then when you go nationally, you look at the 2 largest brokerages right there. You know, you could obviously add in Berkshire Hathaway, but Century 21 and Coldwell Banker is an unbelievable purchase. And then Morgan Stanley is helping tie the deal together. They're adding in $750 million into the deal. They are expecting sometime next year to actually close on it. But let's just go over these numbers for a second. Number one is 340,000 agents. Okay, and by the way, what they talked about is that everyone's going to be operating independently. Okay, that's wild. 347,000 agents under one umbrella, one company, all operating independently. That's a $10 billion enterprise value. And Compass is Compass shareholders, I should say, not Compass, but Compass shareholders will own 78% of the newly formed company. And I obviously have a lot of, say, opinions about this. Number one is when you put everybody under the same umbrella, you are obviously making it easier for operations because now you centralize the operations. It's kind of like when a bank acquires another bank, whether it's regional or national, you just centralize all the operations. It could be at a, somewhere in a flyover state. You have all the operations of, say, intakes of new clients or new forms or new appraisals or new mortgages, whatever the case is. You don't need them in New York City. However, the thing is, when you centralize in a real estate company, you are not really deciphering the difference between Corcoran and, say, Coldwell Banker, or Coldwell Banker Century 21, or Century 21 and Compass. The big thing about Compass was obviously the technology, but if you are not making Compass across the board, it's a very interesting move. I don't know if this is just to ensure that this gets through regulatory approval, but to put 340,000 agents under the same umbrella worth $10 billion in one national brand under Compass is a significant move in the real estate community where all you're seeing is consolidations. I was just at a conference and they said, I think it was 78% of the agents did 90% or 95% of the deals. In other words, the more is getting bigger. The smaller percentage, 5% were doing about 90% of the deals. So when you talk about consolidation, that's what's happening right now. It's really going to be hard for an individual broker to be making it on their own. They're going to need a team, and the team's going to have to be like a Navy SEAL style team. There's the time of having one deal a year is gone. That's gone. One deal a year, agents, they're gone. They're not worth the brand. They're not worth the seat. They're not worth the training for the manager. So we're going to see huge amounts of agents leaving the industry, number one. Number two is that the reason there are so many agents that entered the industry was COVID. COVID was on fire. Now that it's cooled off, the wave continues even though the market has slowed down, and then it recedes, and then the market gets better, and then they enter. It is directly out of the ocean, coming ashore and then receding, coming ashore and then receding. So right now it is a receding for all of the agents that have entered. So it'll be interesting what Compass does. I know Compass started to pull back on a couple of not only the incentives, but also they started having, thank God, finally, some standards to their agents. I heard a couple of agents saying that they needed to make certain criteria to keep their seat, or else they shared their seat, or else they had to work remote. They were still under the Compass brand. That was one of the biggest things, is that when you have all this public money coming at you and you're a private company and then you are just sitting on a pile of cash, I guess going profitable is in the cards, but clearly after years, still trying to expand is one of the biggest hurdles going forward is cash, especially at real estate companies now that the DOJ has ruled down that anyone can charge anything, which has always been the case, but you can't even make it public, so no one's defending any commission, and now you're having a race to the bottom. I remember being at my former company, and they would have literally a scenario where they say, defend your commission. Defend your commission. This is how you defend your commission. And you can't even really talk about it, which I guess is good for the consumer, but the problem is with the consumer thinks that everything is now a commodity. It's like if I go to the gasoline down at the local mart or the one at Exxon or anywhere else, it's all the same. Gasoline is the same as, say, buying water. It's all the same. It's a commodity now. And it'll be interesting what the consumers actually say to this now that you have 340,000 agents under the same brokerage worth $10 billion. This is the financial highlights. Compass exceeds $1 billion in additional revenue from Anywhere's operations, securing $750 million, as I said, from Morgan Stanley, which they just opened up, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, their headquarters. And Jamie Dimon gave actually a nice speech outside of there to the workers, which was very kind of him. Obviously, this is an incredible headquarters. It's through the roof, beautiful building when you're passing by it in the 40s, right there in Midtown, just north of Grand Central. I highly recommend you just walk around that whole area between One Vanderbilt, which has an incredible tourist attraction. I think it's like $70 to go to its viewing area up there. All these buildings, by the way, are turning their rooftops into tourist areas. Even here in Midtown, my building, I'm at 1411 Broadway. This building is, I don't know, 50, 60 stories. They're turning this whole HVAC roof into a place that people that are in the building can go to. Maybe they're gonna have something. I looked all the way down. Each roof is now coming online with a bar or restaurant or something else. So that's additional revenue, and I highly recommend all buildings go that way. So those are the two big stories. We have a lot going on this week, and we're gonna be going live to be talking about all of these stories in residential real estate as we are seeing the Fed finally come down a small tick down in the rates. We're seeing a tightening of the market in rentals here in New York City. The job growth in New York City is really good. The amount of shared office space is through the roof. The tourism is doing really well. The one thing is always retail. Retail, a lot of people are not going out. They're not doing the normal, say, restaurant or going out on weekends. So it'll be very interesting what those turn to, because New York City was always a restaurant, and it still is, a restaurant just hub of the best restaurants. It'll be interesting what ends up happening with the nightlife here in New York City. A lot of people have complained about it, that it's not what it used to be, and it's definitely not. COVID helped or hurt that situation where people aren't really going out anymore. And the last thing I have to say before I pop off here is that the residential market is very interesting for a second home or an investor standpoint, because I look everywhere else. I just came from Dallas. They are expanding everywhere, and Dallas can expand everywhere because they have all these highways, and yeah, it gets crowded and everything else, but they don't have an island. And now that it's become so expensive to build in New York City, you know, I think it was Disney just sold or tried to sell to Related. I think it was Related where they tried to sell this massive mega tower that they want to build on the Upper West Side. That's really the only project that's really going on right now that would be of magnitude here in Manhattan. In Brooklyn, that's another case. Brooklyn is out of control. It's just through the roof, the amount of development that has happened there, and the pricing that they're getting is incredible. I was just down in downtown Brooklyn and right near DeKalb, and one of the studios, I think, was in the mid twos or high twos or something. Tiny little place. This is a place that probably would have garnered, I don't know, $1,500 maybe 5 years ago, and now they're getting $3,000 for a studio. So it's very interesting, the turn. I actually have it in my report tomorrow, where we're going to be going live and talking about what's going on in the market. 1/3, I think it was 1/3 of all deals in Brooklyn either went at or over the asking price recently. The neighborhoods are going through the roof. They're hitting all these record highs. Everyone is going to Brooklyn. It's becoming the new Manhattan, to be honest. People go there and they don't even leave the borough. And it's good, obviously, because now you have all these people traveling within the same borough. They don't even need to come to Manhattan. So if you have any questions, obviously leave in the comments below. It's going to be a very heavy push going into 2026 we're going to do here at BPI. We're going to be covering all the news, all the markets, and all the numbers. And definitely my opinion, I'm going to be taking a stand on a lot of these things, especially the casino. I don't think a casino should be in Manhattan at all. I understand it's the biggest developers here and the biggest casinos here that are trying to vie for 11, 10, 12 billion-dollar projects. It sounds good, but those are temporary construction workers. What does it do for the area on the west side, Midtown, or the east side near the UN? So it'll be interesting what ends up happening with the casino. And there were definitely some choice words from one of the CEOs. I don't know, I think that might have been SL Green CEO, as they were exiting the meeting after a rejection, saying that this is going to go down in history. So it was very drama-filled area. If you have any questions, leave in the comments below. If you're looking to buy or sell here in Manhattan, we've got all the latest information, news, and obviously timeline and expectations. Have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow on another BPI